Hey guys, it's Ms. Casso for English 112. So we are going to be going over in this video academic reporting as well as the overview of your translation essay assignment. So get your notebooks out or your Google Doc or wherever you take notes, and we're going to be doing overview of third person objective reporting with academic reporting. This is also connected to your field guide readings for this week. And then we're going to transition into translation essays that use academic reporting, and I will be giving you some overviews and tips and tricks for that assignment as well. Okay? All right, we're going to start with academic reporting. Just checking my list here. Okay, first thing I need to tell you about academic reporting is that the readings that you have in your field guide are reporting on an issue that you have chosen yourselves. So it's important that you differentiate between the academic reporting readings and then specifically the translation essay that I've given you that has a very particular set of parameters, okay? But we're going to start with the overview of academic reporting. So according to your field guide readings, academic reporting is where you choose a topic. This could be a topic for an essay later on in college. This can be when you get to your businesses or companies that some of you are going into. You know, your higher up gives you a proposal idea that needs to be researched, and you have to report back to whoever these supervisors are academically, third person, objectively, and really take yourself out of the narrative completely, okay? So one thing I tell my English 111s and 112s, when you're reporting on something, you know, think about news reporters or media reporters that we have, you know, YouTubers, social media news networks, those kinds of things. The intent of reporting is to be looking at a primary source of some kind and then reporting back to a general audience about whatever that topic is. So audience, when it comes to academic reporting, is general. Okay, now why is that important for reporting and or translation essays? Is because you are taking higher level content and you are reporting in accessible language. Okay, so the key term here would be accessible language. There's not the expectation when you report on a topic that you are going to be reporting on it using the same diction and jargon that the experts would use. If you think about it, though, it makes sense, right? Like if you're reporting on a topic to a general audience just needs the highlights. They don't need the particularities. They don't necessarily need inset data tables or references. They just need to know what is the bare bones of this issue. What do I need to know? Okay. Your job as an academic reporter and or a translator for your translation essay is to disseminate that information. What that means is that you're going to be reading and annotating and outlining the chapter, right, that you've chosen in Racist Without Racism, or excuse me, Racism Without Racist, I always get those flipped. And then you are going to be taking chunks of it, that's what dissemination means, and then feeding it to a general audience, okay? So let's review. Academic reporting, higher level content reported in accessible language, but it is also third person objective, okay? Now, y'all should have learned this in English 111, the difference between objectivity and subjectivity. So objective is facts, right? What we can prove through source material or through data. Now, granted, your source material for your translation essay is going to be that chapter from Racism Without Racism, okay? So third person objective is what can be proven in the text. Like, what does the text say about this with zero input from you as the writer, okay? Subjective, just for your general understanding and or refresher, is when you are bringing your own opinions, belief systems, whatever, to a text, and that's not what the text is actually talking about, okay? So let me see. All right, so the next thing about academic reporting is that you're going to rely heavily, see, can't spell today, on author-centric templates, okay? So you guys have been going through the They Say, I Say book and learning about templates and how we use templates in academic writing overall. In academic reporting, the template that you're mostly going to use is going to include some reference to the author, okay? So that looks something like this. Okay, all right, so what I've put here is, here's our template using the author, right? Bonilla Silva states whatever quote you're pulling from the actual text, and then your in-text citation, okay? Or the author argues, or the researcher claims, okay? The reason this is in brackets is because this word right here needs to be very specific, right? So you're reporting, but you're reporting in a way that you are dictating to your audience how the author is creating her or his text. And this is what I mean by that, okay? You guys in English 111 probably use the template, the author states, or the author says, or the source says, and you just use that one over and over again in your essays, which is fine, because you are learning how to write in English 111. In English 112, the templates have to be more specific, okay? So for instance, having read this text, I know that Bonilla Silva argues against the norm of certain racism stereotypes or societal ideologies, those kinds of things. So he argues against, he contradicts the status quo, he claims certain things in these chapters, he puts forth, I think I already said argues. But anyway, the point is that this word right here, this verb, needs to be very specific to what the author is doing in the text, okay? So that's another part of academic reporting, is the heavy reliance on an author-driven template. Let me see what else I have on here. Because you are reporting on the author, you are reporting on the author's text, not your feelings about the author's text, okay? And you're going to hear me say that several times in this video because it needs to be hammered into your smart brains, okay? Y'all come to English 112 and you think that you know how to do academic reporting and third-person objective writing, and you're still putting yourself into the narrative, and you can't, okay? Again, you are a news reporter, or another way that I look at it with my English 112s is I say that you guys are research assistants to the top dog professor in your university, okay? That professor does not give two craps what you think about the research, right? Your job as a research assistant is to read the research and report to her on it. Read the researcher and report to him on it, right? That's your job. When we are doing academic reporting, our job lives and dies with the text that's in front of us, okay? And even having said that, y'all will sneak in some of these templates where it's what you think about the text. So you could say, well, let me give you an example. One that shows up that doesn't, upon first glance, look like it's a subjective statement, but it is. It's, one may conclude from this that blank, okay? If you're a reporter, you're not concluding anything. You're just giving forth the facts in the text, okay? And again, by facts in the text with Bonilla Silva, it's what topics is he covering in the chapter that you chose, and what are the supporting details that he had to support those topics in the order that he organized it in the chapter, okay? We're going to get into that more specifically here in a second with your translation essays. Okay, so hopefully this makes sense as far as overview with academic reporting, okay? So we're going to switch gears into your translation essay. And we've covered some of this already with academic reporting, but it does bear repeating, okay? All right, I'm going to talk at you for a little bit and kind of save my board space for the specific stuff I want you to know, but do be writing this down as well, okay? So, translation essay, by its very name, is you acting as the translator between a scholarly source and a general audience. And I'll say that one more time, okay? A translation essay is you acting as the go-between, the intermediary, between a scholarly source and then a general audience, okay? Another way to look at it is you are, well, we already said accessible language, right? You're changing the scholarly text into more accessible language. Let me pause there. This does not mean informal language, okay? Now, while it's appropriate for you to draft in informal language, you've got to elevate that language upon revision, okay? It's not appropriate, even though we're making it for a general audience, to make it informal, okay? None of your writing assignments this semester are going to be in informal language. Your draft can be, and you won't lose points on that because it's easier to draft in informal language and first person and that kind of thing. But your revised drafts need to be elevated into formal language, but then you're kind of doing that balance of here's formal language, but I need to be using diction and syntax and style choices that a general audience would get a general understanding, right? General audience, general understanding of what my particular chapter was about, okay? So for your translation essay, and this is on Blackboard, but I'll repeat it here. Your translation essay is you choosing a chapter from Racism Without Racist, between chapters 2 and 11. Okay, so you're not going to be allowed to do chapter 1. The reason for that is I wanted to put up student examples for you to see your macro and micro outlines, which we'll talk about in a second. And then you'll have student examples of their first drafts of their chapter of Racism Without Racist, sorry guys. And then you'll be able to use those as examples for your chapter. Now to do that, I assigned them chapter 1, which is why y'all can't do chapter 1, if that makes sense, okay? So for your translation essay, you're going to be choosing one of those chapters. Every good translation starts with reading and annotating the text, okay? And this makes sense if we put it into a language, like a foreign language, bilingual language situation, right? So if I have a text, let's say that I'm trying to translate it from English into Russian, okay? I've got to go through that entire document word by word, sentence by sentence, paragraph by paragraph, and translate each bit of it into Russian, right? So start with English and go to Russian. Now apply that to what we're doing. You're taking a text that's probably going to be dense, confusing in places. There's going to be concepts that you're going to have to look up. Always have dictionary.com up, right? And always have Google up for quick reference. There's going to be difficulty with this text. It's going to be in English, but it's not going to feel like it at times, right? Because you're dealing with someone who is an expert PhD in his field. And so his text is going to be really, really dense because it's written for the higher academic audience. Your job, not so much with the English-Russian thing, okay, word for word, that's a bit extra. But your job is going to be going sentence by sentence and translating it into, okay, in normal people words, this is what it means. And then paragraph by paragraph, okay, T1 paragraph of chapter 8, say. T1 paragraph, he's talking about the concept of new racism. Then he shifts into T2 paragraph where he is going into subgenres of new racism. T3, see how you're going in order? You're starting from the beginning of your text, translating it all the way through, and then from there, you're creating your macro and your micro outlines, okay? I feel like I'm forgetting something, so I'm consulting my list. Okay, no. So now let's talk about macro and micro outlines. Well, actually, let's back up, review, and then we'll get into macro and micro outlines. So you've got translation essay. You are taking your chapter, okay, sentence by sentence, paragraph by paragraph, and you are annotating it, okay? You are annotating it. Now, when you talk about annotations for a translation essay, these annotations need to be pretty heavy, okay? Now, excuse me, I know you guys are in an 8-week course, and this already probably feels like a tremendous amount of work, but if you were in a seated 16-week course, you would actually be taking 2 weeks to be able to sit with the text, annotate the text, construct your outlines, and then draft your translation essay, okay? So it should feel intense, okay, because it is. But in order for this to get the grade that you want, it all starts with your annotations, okay? You can't slack on your annotations because everything's going to be writing on it, especially in a translation essay, okay? I'm going to teach you some tips and tricks later on in the semester for when you guys have sources that you just need to get to the good stuff, just get to the meat and bones, right? So no, excuse me, you don't have to read a source all the way through for certain assignments. You can go to like the results section of a scientific study, or you can go to the conclusion section, the discussion section, but we'll talk about how to expedite that later in the semester. But for this assignment, you have got to go sentence by sentence, paragraph by paragraph. There's just no other way around it, okay? If your annotations are weak, your outlines will be weak and your essay will be weak, okay? And you won't get the grade that you want. So just fair warning, everything is starting with you choosing your chapter and spending time with the text. Now, a suggestion on that. Do not try to read this entire chapter in one go, okay? Because you will want to shoot yourself in the face. It's too much. Any person who's conducting any kind of research. So, for example, I'm starting my doctorate program this summer, okay? So I'm already researching potential dissertation ideas and this sort of thing. Y'all, I sit at my computer for 30 minutes at a time. I set my timer. When that timer goes off, I go do something else. Because your brains aren't made to put so much information in your short-term memory, okay? So another suggestion is to either, set a timer and then, do 30 minutes at a time and then go do an hour of something else and come back to it, or break it over a couple of days. So this isn't due until Wednesday. Then the folder will be open on Monday. So you have Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. Find pockets of time that you can stay with the text and then be away from the text. Stay with it, be away from it, okay? And you're going to get a lot more out of it. Your annotations will be so much better if you do it that way, especially all the way through, right? They won't start really strong and then get super weak at the end of the chapter. But overall quality of your outlines and then your first draft and eventually revised draft will be much higher, okay? God, sorry, y'all, I got something in my throat. It's talking so much. Okay. So, from your annotations will come the construction of your macro and your micro outlines. Okay? Let me make sure y'all can see that. Yeah. So from your annotations will be the construction of your macro and your micro outlines. Now, we covered how to create macro and micro outlines in a previous video. So if you are already lost and don't know what I mean by this, you need to hit pause, you need to go watch that other video and then revisit us, okay? Because this won't make sense. I'm not going to redo the lecture here because it's already in the other video, okay? So pause, go watch that one, and then come back if you're lost on these terms. Now, for the rest of you that already have that in your notes, translation essays start with the text. The text has to be annotated. From the annotations, you are constructing your macro and your micro outline. So if you think about it, you've got the text, and I know this is kind of an elementary example, but bear with me. So, you've got your highlights, you've got some underlines going on, you've got marginal notes for days, marginal notes, right? When you do a translation essay, you are going in order from the first page of your chapter, okay? So then you will be labeling, this is T1, this is T2, this is T3, etc. Okay, now, Bonilla Silva has some massive paragraphs in some of these chapters, so you may have a whole page that's still T1, okay? So just be aware that that does happen in this book. But for your general understanding, when you're translating a scholarly text, you have the text, you've heavily annotated it, right? Oh, look at me. I don't even have highlights in these sections. Underlines. Let me practice what I preach. All right. So you have translated the text, the scholarly text, with your annotations. From your annotations will come your outlines. Let me make sure you can see over there. Yeah, okay. So you've got macro outline, which is only the major topics, right? So I literally am lifting this and putting it here. Lifting this and putting it here and here and forever, okay? So that's how it goes from your I almost said outlines. That's how it goes from your annotations into your outlines. Okay, now, fair warning again, because my seated 112s try to get a little sneaky with me, right? I don't know if y'all think we don't just check every single document you turn in or what, but it's all right. What they tried to do was they tried to skip over topics. So in chapter 1, I believe there were 27 topic paragraphs, which is a lot, right? I warned you. 27 topic paragraphs. So I was getting macro and micro outlines, I was getting macro outlines that had like 10 topics, 15 topics, and they were losing points left and right, right? Because I've read these texts, and I know based on your annotations that you submit, how many topic paragraphs you should have in your macro outline, how many topics you should have covered in your macro, okay? And again, go look at those student examples, because both of those examples received 100s because they did the entire chapter, okay? You cannot half-butt this, all right? You've got to go from the first topic paragraph to the last topic paragraph, okay? And I would argue you would even include the intro and conclusion of those chapters as well, just to make sure that you're covering the translation from beginning to end, okay? So macro outlines are going to be the long list of topics that Bonilla Silva covered in your particular chapter. That's macro. Micro is going to be your macro copied and pasted, and then again you're going to go to your annotations and you're going to have, I think it says on Blackboard, between 2 and 3 supporting details. I want to say that one of the student examples uploaded had 2, one of them had 3 per paragraph. I'm okay with either, okay? Just don't have 1 because that's ridiculous. So in a micro outline, you're going to copy and paste your macro, okay? And then you've got to go back through, and each topic you're going to add supporting details, 2 or 3 of them, okay? So then you're going to revisit T1, right? So let's say you've done T1 through T27. Now I got to go back to T1. I'm going to look at my annotations. All right, so for T1, what are 2 things that I think are important that Bonilla Silva said to back up T1? And then I'm going to take it, put it in my micro outline. Then I'm going to move to T2. Now I'm going to go back to the text, my annotations, right? What did I highlight, underline, marginal note in T2 as supporting details? I'm going to pick 2 or 3 of them, put them in my micro outline, and so forth for every single topic paragraph, okay? So your micro outlines, I mean, they end up being 3 pages, single-spaced sometimes, because you have to do that amount of work in order to create a proper translation essay, okay? Now, before you freak out and drop this class, not every assignment is this in-depth with the original text that we work with, okay? So just know getting through this assignment is going to open you up to more flexibility with your future assignments, but I have to teach you this first, okay? I have it in my notes here to tell you, all of us start somewhere as college writers, okay? You guys are starting like English 111 plus 1, right? So I got to make sure that you understand when you get to your universities, being able to do this is an incredibly, incredibly difficult skill, but it's one that you have to kind of suffer through in order to get where you want to go, okay? Those professors are going to expect you to keep yourself out of it, out of this type of writing, and just report on the facts. Here's the facts, here's the facts, here's the facts, right? This is something that is showing up currently as well, right? So we've got a lot of allegations of fake news and fake media and all this. Translating texts, primary source documents or scholarly documents into third-person objective language is so integral to you guys as college-level writers, okay? So your future assignments are not going to be this in-depth or this in-depth. I can't think of another word right now. So get through this, and it's going to open you up for weeks 2 through 8 for wider flexibility in your writing assignments, not only from the topics you get to choose, the texts you get to choose, and then how you want to construct your outlines, your drafts, and your revised drafts, okay? All right, so hopefully that clarified a little bit. Please feel free to email me if some of this didn't make sense. I know I had some hiccups and brain farts in there, so let me know if I can clarify anything further, but other than that, enjoy your week, guys.